Hello and welcome to FPL Mate, your best mate for fantasy Premier League content for the 2021-22 season. My name is Dan and today we are doing a Game Week 35 episode of the 100 Experts video, the video where we ask 100 FPL experts, podcasters, veterans, video makers, all kinds of different people involved in the FPL community, what they are doing this game week, what transfers are they making, who are they going to captain, are they going to be using any chips. We're going to get all of this information, try and spot some trends and therefore work out what are the best moves for us to do as FPL content consumers, I suppose. So, all to come in this video. Hope you do enjoy it. If you do, please do leave a like. Massively helps out the channel, and do subscribe as well if you are new around here. But without further ado, let's meet the 100 experts that took part in the survey this week. So here they are on screen in front of you now, guys. 100 FPL, just great FPL people who I definitely back all of these people. That's why they make it into these videos. That's why I'm so happy for these guys to provide me with their information of what they're up to this game week. We're going to see what they're all up to. So, but these guys, absolute legends. Make sure if you see their names around, make sure you go check them out and stuff like that, because they're all absolutely legends for contributing towards this video. Massively appreciate you guys. Let's see what you're up to. Okay, so the general trends first. What is going on here? Well, 32% of our managers are making one transfer, 15% are making two transfers, 2% of our managers are making just, three transfers, which is quite a lot of transfers, but only 2% are making that large amount of transfers this week, and 51%. Now, this is the big one, guys. 51% of our FPL experts are not making a transfer this week. And I have to say, guys, I think this is the first time this entire season when more than half of our 100 experts are not making a transfer. So this is pretty significant. And what it probably tells us, guys, is that if you look at your team and you feel like you actually don't really need to make a transfer, or that there's no super obvious transfer you're really passionate about, maybe now is a good week to just not make a transfer at all. Unless you've got a real problem in your team, maybe it's a good week to just not make a transfer. We've obviously got the final big double game week. Well, we've got a double game week in 37, but we've got the final big double game week in 36 next up. And that one is going to be a game week where some of you guys may be using chips and stuff like that. But it's certainly going to be a game week where we're probably going to want to make multiple transfers going into game week 36. So therefore, maybe it could be a good idea to roll the transfer this week. So you've got 2 free transfers to use next game week. You know, you can maybe even take a hit next week as well and play 3 transfers, which could really revolutionize your team, ready for the big double game week and take advantage of that double game week. So I think that's what's on a lot of our pro FPL players' minds right now. Can we save a transfer this week and actually go pretty hard next game week with a little bit more information about which players we want to be targeting? So that is definitely something that's going to be happening. But there are some people making transfers as well. No one is using a wild card this week, so that's that. So yeah, really, guys, it's not a big week for transfers, and really, this game week is there's a few ideas of transfers we can make, but like I say, don't feel like you have to make a transfer. That's not going to be the most important thing in this video. Captaincy is probably going to be the most interesting thing in this video, which I'll talk about briefly a little bit later on in the video. But let's have a look at chip usage. Do you think anyone's using a chip this week? Well, much to my surprise, there is actually one. Just one of our experts is using a chip this week, and they are using the bench boost, which I guess is fair enough. Like, I do say, you know, use your bench boost when your bench is at its strongest. If your bench genuinely looks stronger this week than it will do next game week, then, you know, why would you play it next game week? Maybe play it this week. And particularly if you're hoarding chips, you're kind of running out of opportunities to use those chips. So it's okay to get rid of them now if you still have them, if you feel like now is a good week to use them. So it's very difficult for me to say it's a bad week to bench boost. I mean, generally speaking, it probably is a bad week to bench boost, but that's not going to apply to everyone. And maybe just that one expert found themselves with a really nice bench this week and thought, you know what, let's go for it now. I think it's going to be better now than it will be in future game weeks. So there you go, something to think about, guys. If you still have chips left, you use them or lose them. If now is a good time for you personally to use them, then maybe go for it. So on to the general trends of transfer. So this is among the whole FPL community, every FPL player in the world, the 9 million plus players now. Who are they transferring in? Well, there's a pretty popular choice right now, and that is Gabriel Jesus. After his huge FPL score last game week, a lot of people are making the knee-jerk transfer to bring him in, striking whilst the fire is hot, the iron's hot, I suppose. So fair enough there. We've also got a few other players. So we've got some Aston Villa players in there, Cash, Watkins, and Coutinho. You can see at the bottom there as well, and some other various players. We're looking actually at quite a lot of forwards here, so you can see that Jesus, Nketiah, Watkins and Dennis are all making the most popular transfers in among the general FPL player, the casual FPL player, I suppose. So these are maybe kind of targeting forwards. I don't know if I could necessarily agree with that, but certainly in general, people are targeting forwards. I don't know if our experts will agree with that, but let me just show you guys, for example, what players do our experts like out of this list? Is there any crossover? What do you think? You think it's going to be any crossover? Well, there's a little bit. Let me show you what it is. So we've got Cash, Watkins, De Bruyne and Coutinho. So the 3 Aston Villa players, and then De Bruyne, obviously, Man City are in very good form right now, and they've got some good fixtures coming up as well. We know about their double game week in 36 now, of course, as well. So people are going in on Aston Villa and De Bruyne for the Man City hype. All of the other players, little to no interest. I will tell you guys that there are a few players on this list that you guys were probably already eyeing up. You probably were thinking about buying these players, and I can tell you that these are players that our experts are not interested in at all. These players that I'm about to show you are players none of our experts are buying in, not a single one, and it might surprise you because it is, of course, Jesus, Mount, and Bruno Guimaraes. So Jesus, you can kind of understand that maybe that is a kind of a knee-jerk, but at the same time, because so many casual FPL players are bringing in Jesus, it probably stands to reason that, you know, surely it must be a good transfer if so many people are bringing this player in. Like, he is miles ahead of the second most transferred in players. Surely he's such a super obvious player to bring in. Well, according to our experts, he is not interesting at all. And you know what? I completely agree. Like, we kind of, if you saw my buy, sell, keep, avoid video yesterday, you'll have noticed that Jesus and Bruno G, both of those players were in my avoid section because I just thought, you know, these players are players that I know are going to be hyped up, but they are going to be traps, and I don't think people should be going too hard on these players. It's just far too risky. It just doesn't seem like a sensible move for the value for money and what other things you can do for the same amount of money and stuff like that. They just seem like bad ideas to me, and it's kind of, you know, kind of reassuring to see now that the experts completely agree. Mason Mount is an interesting one. I don't know if he's necessarily a complete avoid, but if you were going to go for Mason Mount, the time to do that really was last game week. It might be actually now a time to move on to some different players. You know, Coutinho there, for example. Saka is a pretty good option still if you haven't got him left. So there you go. Those are the most popular choices. Let's have a look and see what the experts are doing. Who are they transferring out? Now, because there's not as many transfers going on this game week, because so many of our experts are rolling, you may have to take this with a little bit of a pinch of salt. There is slightly less data than I usually like, but we still have got some trends. So kind of looking at the top players on this list, for example, they give us the main trends, right? So Havertz, he's being transferred out by 8 people, which is pretty significant, I suppose. We've got Reece James being transferred out as well by 7. Reece James, I think people are a little bit worried that, well, I think there's a little bit of a consensus here by now that he's not really going to be fully fit to play every single game. He really does just need a full summer, a full preseason to get himself back in business, back fully fit and stuff like that. So for now, he is probably going to get rotated a little bit. And when he is playing, he might find himself playing in the centre-back position rather than the right wing-back position. So that is going to be a little bit of a problem. Now, people, I think, are seeing that because James is so expensive, he's probably not going to give you good value for money when you can go elsewhere. Other players people are giving up on are Bruno Fernandes. Kind of understand that, to be fair. And then we've got some, obviously, some Newcastle players in there. Newcastle have got some horrible fixtures coming up, which is why I'm not a fan of Bruno Guimaraes. But yeah, we've got Wood, Share there. Sam Maximan is there as well. So a few players from Newcastle being sold as well. Let's have a look at who is being brought in. So there is a clear winner. Well, I say clear winner. There are a few votes ahead of the rest, but we've got Coutinho as the #1 transfer target for this game week. So if looking through this list, I like to use the most popular transfers in among experts as kind of a wish list, I guess, for my own FPL team. So that's exactly what I'm going to do, and I'm going to say, look at these players. The top 3 are all Aston Villa players. So what does that tell us? That tells us that now is a very good time to invest in Aston Villa players, and after that, it's kind of up to you how you're going to do that. Do you want a midfielder in Coutinho? He's the most popular guy. Are you looking for a defender? If so, Matty Cash is probably your answer. Are you looking for a striker? You know, you're looking for a forward. You're still trying to, you know, struggling, trying to find the right forward for your team. Then maybe Watkins is your answer. But there we have Pookie there as well if you're looking for a slightly cheaper forward option as well. De Bruyne is being brought in by 3 people. I think people are maybe targeting captaincy for 35, 36. Because City obviously have the double in 36. Maybe they're looking for a captain in De Bruyne. We know how good De Bruyne has been recently, and because City City got to make sure that they win the Premier League, they are going to have to play at pretty full strength. I should warn you though, guys, De Bruyne is apparently carrying an injury and he's playing through the injury, but it may be that he's such an important player to the team, he kind of just has to keep playing through that, unfortunately. Aside from that, guys, it's pretty spread out. You can see there a load of players being transferred in by just 2. That's not really enough to make a trend, but what we're really seeing here is the trend. Coutinho, Cash, Watkins, that is the big trend, I think, for this game week. Bringing in those Aston Villa players, that is where you should target. They've got Norwich this game week, then they've got back-to-back double game weeks in 36 and 37. So Aston Villa, prime targets for the week. Let's suggest some transfers. So the first suggested transfer is really easy because I just take the most popular sell and add the most popular buy. So Havertz out, Coutinho in. Thank you, by the way, to the person last game week who suggested that we add the player prices to this page, just so you kind of get an idea of how much each player costs and how easy that would be to make that transfer move. Therefore, of course, if you guys have any suggestions on how you'd like to see these videos improved, as long as it's possible and doable, then I will definitely do it for you guys just to try and keep things really good. So yeah, Havertz to Coutinho. Seems really obvious. Havertz might be a little bit rotated between now and the end of the season. He's not played amazingly the last game or so, and Havertz is kind of a player who is replaceable. There are other players who can kind of come in and do the same thing as him at the moment. You know, Lukaku, for example, could come in and play the striker role. Maybe Timo Werner there as well. Pulisic maybe on the left-hand side or whatever. There's different ways that Chelsea can play. So people, I think, are getting the idea now that the double game week is almost over. Of course, we've got the Manchester United game tomorrow. After that, maybe we're thinking, let's move on to the next big thing. You know, remember, we've got to be super critical about our midfielders because midfield slots are just so valuable at the moment. So Havertz out, Coutinho in. It's a possibility. Bruno Fernandes, if you're looking to remove him, you could bank a load of cash by downgrading Fernandes to a Coutinho. That is an option to you. I would suggest maybe Fernandes to a KDB could be a nice option as well. But Coutinho is certainly the target number 1 for this game week, we would say. And then we've obviously got those Newcastle forwards. So Wood and Alan Saint-Maximin. If you've got one of those forwards and you want to move to an Aston Villa striker, then Ollie Watkins is going to be your guy. You are going to have to find a little bit of money in order to do that because that is technically an upgrade, so you'll need to find 0.6 million to do that. But if you can do that, if you have that in the bank already, or if you can make a downgrade elsewhere, make a double transfer, then maybe that is something you could do. And then I've got some other suggestions. Reece James down to a Matty Cash. That seems like a pretty good transfer to me. I like the look of that one as well, and it's easy to do. Frees up a little bit of cash as well, so anyone could do it in just one transfer, so that's nice. We've got Fabian Schär to Matty Cash as well. So if you do have a little bit of money in the bank or you're making a double transfer, again, this is another move you could make. If you're kind of trying to remove those Newcastle defenders, you're probably not going to want to play a Newcastle defender right until game week 38. They've got terrible fixtures until game week 38. So 3 game weeks in a row, you're not going to want to play your Newcastle players. You may as well sell them at this point. So a share to cash could be pretty nice as well. And then finally, we've got those Newcastle forwards again. Wood and Alan Saint-Maximin. You could, in fact, downgrade them to a Pookie who has a slightly better fixtures. Double game week in 36 as well. Norwich can maybe play with a little bit of freedom if they are obviously mathematically relegated. We'll see what happens there. So that could be an interesting move as well, just to get yourself a nice cheap striker option if you just feel like, I just don't want to spend any money on forwards anymore. I would completely understand where you're coming from, and Pookie is potentially the answer. But guys, I should say, again, reiterate, if you don't feel like you need to make a transfer this week, don't make one. Just because I'm suggesting some transfers doesn't mean you've got to do them. This is a very good week to not make a transfer, so feel free to just like take a chill pill, take a week off, and just say, I'm just going to wait until next week and do some real serious transfer work next week instead. But something that we do need to think about is captaincies. Guys, this is interesting. So, once again, we see Salah rising to the top as the captain picks. It feels like we're back weeks and weeks and weeks ago, maybe months ago, where Salah was just the #1 captain pick among experts every single week. We're back in that scenario. Salah is back on top. Obviously, he's back on form now. I'm sure you guys will agree. He's scoring goals. Is exactly what we want, really, as FPL managers, to have just a captain who we can just trust, right? They play Newcastle away, Liverpool, which is a kind of a tough game, and I think you shouldn't underestimate how tough this game is. But at the same time, Newcastle's starting to rotate, starting to go onto the beach a little bit. They've achieved their goal for this season, which was to stay up in the league, not get relegated. They've done that, so that's pretty good for them. So I don't know exactly what's going to happen here. Newcastle away on paper sounds like a kind of a tricky game though, but Salah is Salah. You trust him against any opposition, really, don't you? After that, we've got Kane and Son, and this kind of surprised me a little bit because Kane at 31% is actually probably a little bit higher than than it actually suggests, I guess, because you've got to remember how many of our experts actually have Kane in their team. I would probably say that only about 30-35% of experts have Kane in their team to begin with. So the fact that pretty much everyone who has Kane is captaining him would maybe suggest to me that if you have Kane right now in your team, guys, he is actually technically going to be the #1 captain pick, because as a percentage of owners, you know, how many people own Salah? Like, I don't know, what, 95% of top FPL players will own Salah, maybe even more. How many own Kane? You know, maybe 30%. So as a percentage of the percentage, if like it makes any sense whatsoever, maybe Kane is actually the preferred pick if you have him, but only if you have him. I don't know if we'd move the world to get him, but we know that Kane has an extraordinary record against Leicester. Okay, it's like one of his favourite oppositions to play. It's a home game. Obviously, Spurs have a lot to play for. Obviously, Kane has a lot to play for individually as well, and obviously Leicester are playing this game against Spurs in between two big European games, so we're expecting Leicester to heavily rotate. We heavily rotate in this game, which I can very much see happening. And if that does, that's going to mean basically it's going to be Spurs against a half of a Leicester team who will not be motivated. I don't know. Maybe be knackered. I don't know. So maybe that's actually the place to target. I mean, if we add the two Spurs players together, we've got Son there as well at 13%, then the Spurs players actually do go above the Salah pick, I suppose, as a combination. And most of you guys are not going to have both Kane and Son. So maybe actually it's not Salah as the #1 pick. It's actually whatever Spurs player you have is the #1 pick. I don't know. I don't want to throw out too many ideas there, but what I can say is there's 3 clear top picks: Salah, Kane, and Son. Everyone else is kind of miles below that. We've obviously got De Bruyne there at 4%, Coutinho at 4%, Sterling at 3%, and you will notice that these numbers do not add up to 100%. There were loads of 1%ers. Off the top of my head, Saka was one of them. Someone went for Cancelo. Someone went for I probably should have written this down, to be honest. That's really annoying. I should have written this down. But yeah, there was just so random loads of 1%ers. But I mean, if I'm completely honest, 1% is not a trend, and this video is all about trends. I'd say 3% is a trend, and that kind of suggests that maybe it's a good move. Anything below 3%, then actually maybe that's just kind of, you know, it's just a coincidence in a way. You know, it's just a bit random. And I have to say, guys, that the experts have been going a little bit wackier with their captaincies recently, just because we're coming to the end of the season. People are trying to make final pushes, go a little bit differential to try and boost their rank in the final weeks. So, but yeah, we're not going to talk about those 1%ers too much. Just focus on the big ones. So the big ones are Salah, Kane, and Son. If you do want a differential, De Bruyne, Coutinho, and Sterling seem to be the ones to go for if you have them available to you, basically. I think Matty Cash was another 1%er, actually. So maybe Matty Cash if you're bringing him in. I don't know. I don't know how much I like that. But there we go, guys. Those are the captain suggestions for you this game week. I would love to know, by the way, guys, which one you're thinking of captaining. I'd love to, like, I'm actually really curious. Who are you guys captaining this game week? Let me know in the comments. Go for it. So guys, that is the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching today. If you did enjoy what you saw, please do leave a like. Like I say, it really does help the channel so much to stay afloat and stay relevant and, you know, stay in people's recommended and stuff like that. So yeah, massive shout out to those of you who like all of the videos. You guys are absolute legends. Please do subscribe if you haven't done already. That would be wicked as well. Aside from that, guys, I'm not really sure what video we're going to do tomorrow. I'm going to save my team selection video to Friday just because I want to wait till after the final Chelsea versus Manchester United game, just so I can give you my final rank going into game week 35. So yeah, I'm going to delay that a little bit until Friday. So we'll see. I'll figure out what I'm going to do tomorrow. Maybe a stream or something like that. We'll have to see. But there we go, guys. Do stay tuned for that. Aside from that, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you later, mates. Bye-bye.